Brew Strong is brought to you by Blickman Engineering, home of the top-tier brewing stand. Visit them online at blickmanengineering.com.
For the beer radio you've been looking for. This is the show that dispels myths, tackles the toughest topics, and makes no apologies for geeking out on beer. Hosted by two guys that drink before they think. Jamil Zainashev and John Palmer. This is Brew Strong.
Hey, my brewing brothers and sisters.
Greetings.
Yes, here we are at the world-famous NHC 2010 Minneapolis.
Yes, one of my favorite locations.
where there's beer? Is that your favorite location?
And walleye, yes.
And walleye, that's true. So the other night, John's like, well, I got to have my walleye. Is there a good place to have walleye around here? Everywhere we're walking, he's like, so you seen any walleye around here? There's like a walleye place? I'm like, John, so you want some walleye, huh?
Yeah, they had good walleye on a stick at the Mall of America, but found a better place. So
I find out a place. Somebody says, well, go to Jensen's for your walleye. I'm like, all right, well, we'll go to Jensen's. End up going down to Jensen's. Brew Tattoo takes us in his Cadillac, and we go with Bad Rock, and we get out there, and it's like the 90-year-old people shuffling in ahead of us, and place been there a while. The pictures from the 40s, and everyone's dressed nicely. We're there in our beer T-shirts and shorts. And they look at us and like, well, you're an unusual crowd. Oh, yeah. So we gave the waiter plenty of crap. That's how we roll.
Had him on camera, too, didn't we?
Got him on camera. Other patrons were complaining about us.
Well, yeah, she wasn't really complaining so much as telling everyone I was full of shit for
that you didn't know your walleye from your yellow perch.
Yeah.
That's right. And so it was a good $200 for a couple of pieces of walleye. And then on the way out, our waiter told the rest of the people that we were drunk and been drinking heavily and watch out for us. So we were walking out, and they were all commenting to us. They're like, be careful. Which way are you going? We'll avoid you.
Be careful on the road. Yeah.
It was pretty funny.
Yeah.
We had a good time at Jensen's Supper Club.
In, what was it? Egan, Minnesota.
In Egan, Minnesota. If you're down in Egan and you're got a hankering for walleye, stop by Jensen's Supper Club. So
that was a good time.
So you got your walleye fix. You're happy?
Yeah. Well, I had some today for lunch also, and it wasn't as good as at Jensen's actually.
All right.
And
you can't beat Jensen's for your walleye there.
Yeah.
Now
I actually asked the chef. I said, did you serve me trout by mistake? Because it tasted more like trout than walleye.
Uh-huh.
And he assured me that no, it was hand prepared and rolled in Japanese breadcrumbs. And it's like, wow, Japanese breadcrumbs. Okay.
Palmer knows his walleye.
Yeah. Well, and I think of the 50, 60 times we've had dinner together, you've probably ordered fish 65 of those 60 times.
Yeah. Wherever I go, fish.
I've noticed. He has a thing for fish, especially walleye.
Yep. It's one of the best.
So you tell me. But, conference coming to a close. We're all done tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'm pointing the RV west. And I'm actually going to stop at August Shell in New Ulm.
That's a beautiful brewery. I was there probably 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And, pretty place. It's one of the it's like built on the original site. They had a big beer garden around the whole place. It's estate. Mm-hmm. And the bottling line looked like it was from, the 1850s or so. But very, very nice beers there.
All right.
Yeah. Real
cool.
nice.
Well, I'm going to be there probably around noon tomorrow. So anybody else in the area, stop on by, should be a blast. I'm looking forward to it. Cool. All right. So let's do this. Let's take a short break. When we come back, we're coming back with Kai Troester. He's an engineering guy and a serious beer geek, and we're going to be talking about brewing consistency. He gave a great talk this morning, and I think he's got a lot of great things to say.
Yeah, beer geeks!
Yeah, beer geeks. All right, well, we're live. Scream, everybody. See? We got people here. We'll be back after this short break.
From the stovetop to a camp burner to some kind of brew stand, most homebrewers follow some version of this progression. With each move, a homebrewer will often have to change a lot, if not all, of their equipment. Until now, Blickman Engineering brings you the top-tier brewing stand, the only brewing stand that grows with you. For example, buy a top-tier floor-standing burner now, and it'll bolt right to your top-tier brewing stand when you're ready for all-grain brewing. The top-tier brewing stand is perfect for 5-gallon to 20-gallon batch sizes. Its modular design is adjustable and accommodates everything from small footprint coolers up to 30-gallon pots. How does the top-tier brewing stand do it? At its core is a strong, heat-treated, and anodized aluminum main post. On all 4 sides are built-in T-slots for the adjustable heavy-gauge stainless steel shelves and beefy burner tiers. The tiers accommodate any manufacturer's pots or coolers up to 21 inches in diameter. Best of all, not only does the top-tier brewing stand grow with your skills and equipment, but it easily knocks down for long-term storage or transport, too. The top-tier brewing stand from Blickman Engineering. Learn more at blickmanengineering.com and to find a local Blickman retailer. And start brewing from the top tier. Organic ingredients. Fresh, clean, good for you, good for the planet. Seven Bridges has the best selection of organic ingredients, including over 27 varieties of organic hops at breworganic.com. Join their mailing list for special deals and regular updates. They've been brewing organic and serving organic brewers for 13 years. They can help you brew great organic beer. And Seven Bridges is the proud host of the 4th Annual National Organic Brewing Challenge, the only BJCP-sanctioned nationwide brewing competition just for organic beers. Take the challenge this fall for a chance to win great prizes, including stainless steel brew kettles and organic brewing ingredients. This year, the challenge will be judged in 2 locations: on the East Coast at Capital City Brewing in Arlington, Virginia, and on the West Coast at Gordon Biersch in San Jose, California. For complete details, visit breworganic.com/competition. Seven Bridges is cooperatively owned in awesome Santa Cruz, California. Everyone there is dedicated to great beer and people-friendly business practices. They offer environmentally friendly, fair trade, and fair wage brewing products whenever possible. Seven Bridges, breworganic.com.
Nico, listen, our lawyers said that we had to do this for 1 hour, and after this, we don't have to talk to each other for 3 more months to the next meeting.
Kids, come on, let's get out of here.
I'm supposed to have more lines. I'm the professional. Hey, it's Sully.
And I'm Nico.
And we opened the 21st Amendment 10 years ago at 563 2nd Street in San Francisco, just 2 blocks from Giants Park, to make great beer and have a great time doing it.
That's right, because to us, the 21st Amendment is more than just the right to make beer. It's the right to experiment, to be innovative, and just do things differently. And so now, we're putting our craft beer in cans.
That's right, cans. You can find our world-famous Hell or High Watermelon Wheat Beer and Brew for Your Die IPA in the Northeast, Northwest, parts of the Midwest, and Alaska in cans and on draft. So next time you're at your local neighborhood pub or good beer store, be sure to ask for 21st Amendment in cans.
Because everyone likes it in a can.
Tasty crack cans.
Tasty crack can.
Like the Lance Armstrong of the beer world. Except for that nut thing. This is Brew Strong.
All right, we're back. We're sitting here live at the Hospitality Suite, NHC 2010 Minneapolis. And one of the things I love about being here, I get to hang out with my buddy John Blickman. He's got a great bunch of equipment over there. He's brought out samples of new products that are coming out, the Hop Rocket. He's got the hop blocker, he's got the top tier system, he's got the Therminator, he's got the beer gun, he's got the
top tier and the Boilermakers,
those fermenters, and he's got it all. And one of the things I love about these creative guys, and he's an engineer, but he's quite a creative guy. They're always missing some piece of finger or something. Have you noticed that? They're always, they'll hold up a hand and like piece of finger gone, and Blickman's no exception. He's like missing a piece here or there. Yeah,
what's he missing?
He's missing his driving finger for California.
Wow.
His driving finger for California.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's gone.
He can't signal.
Lost it in a kettle accident?
Well, he's not going to be able to signal when he's driving in California. Yeah, I don't know.
That's why he never visits.
I'm sure it's something. He was working on something, and there off it goes.
That's a good sign of a great engineer.
Exactly. That's a hands-on engineer, one that tests the stuff himself.
Yeah.
And then learns about, safety along the way.
Right.
And builds a nice, safe product after that,
He'll never do that again.
Right. Oh, he's got the Autosparge. Look, here's some great stuff here.
Yeah.
Right. Beer gun, Autosparge, got the hop blocker, nice new product. So if you get a chance, check these out. Check them out here. You check them out down at the Blickman booth. It's opposite end. You see the giant rotating Blickman sign right there.
Did he build that too?
He built that too.
Yeah.
He built it 2 inches too tall though. But
for the room.
Oops.
Yeah.
So what does he do? Gets out a hacksaw. Maybe he lost another part. He could be missing a toe for all we know.
Right.
He was wearing shoes, so I couldn't really tell. But I wouldn't doubt. You get your foot up there, you're sawing away with the cheap hacksaw down from 7-Eleven hacksaw.
I bet he didn't even stop. He's kept right on going. That finished the job.
Here he comes. Right?
Yeah. He's in the room.
Right, see? Well, he's signaling with his missing signaling finger. Right there, see?
Yeah.
It's a sign of a great engineer. A hands-on engineer, that's how you tell. They're missing some piece here or there.
You had to calibrate it. That was the problem. Yeah.
That's right. Well, and speaking of engineers, Kai, you're an engineer. You work in quite the geeky technology, the chip technology field.
Yes.
And you're also a massive beer geek.
Actually, not so much.
Well,
more brewing, right?
Brewing
but
geek. Brewing. There's
really,
a difference.
It's really just another field to just geek out and apply some of the things I do at work, just at brewing, where I do troubleshooting or finding things to make things consistent and just find other ways to measure things and trying to get more and more numbers out of brewing.
Right. Well, and one of the reasons that you want to do that is so you have, consistency, right?
Well, there's one, for the consistency part, and there's also for the troubleshooting part. I mean, if you're not consistent, the question is, where did I go wrong? I mean, what was the step that I missed? And I feel like the more you can measure, the more points you have to check to actually trace back and I say, this step didn't go right, so I'll have to fix that, but I don't have to touch some other steps.
You gave a really nice talk today at the conference about mash efficiency, and people in general when they're talking about mash efficiency, you said earlier it's like dick measuring. It's like everybody goes like, well, mine's bigger, I'm doing better, and that's not necessarily the best thing to focus on.
No, it's not.
Because you can make beer with less efficiency or more efficiency, not necessarily a problem either way, but the thing I loved about your talk was you were talking about how it's important to know what number you can get and being able to calculate it and expect to get the same number so you have that consistency and you can, at that point, decide you need more efficiency or less efficiency or what you need to do in order to improve your beer.
Exactly, and it's also not so much. It's not about how to get to these numbers, but how to keep them stable. I mean, how to keep it predictable, how to make it such that it actually is not as sensitive to some parameters. I was talking about this idea of conversion efficiency, which measures how many starches are converted in your mash, and one way to actually get that predictable is to make sure that you are at the top, you are close to 100%, because it won't change much anymore. Mm-hmm. And that gives you much more predictability than going forward, because only the lautering process would then change your efficiency.
Right.
And even that you can get predictable if you know your system, if you know what to expect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one good point you brought up was that a thinner mash helps conversion.
Yes.
That's something that doesn't get talked about much. A lot of brewers kind of really, I think, have focused on the thicker side of mash. Grist ratios,
right.
1.5 or 1 to 1.5 quarts per pound, and you showed some numbers and in some of your own research where 2 to 3 quarts per pound actually improves the conversion and the extract, the extract yield of your mash. Isn't that right?
Yes, that's what I have seen, and I've never really understood why there's 1 1/4. quart per pound is just a dogma in homebrewing, because in your book, John, you talk about that 1.5 to 2 quarts per pound is more what should be favored.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, a lot of pro brewers, they're trying to get as much grain into their mash tun as possible, and then you can dilute it later. But if you can't get enough grain into your mash tun to get the sugars you need, then they're always working with, it seems to me, undersized equipment. They're trying to push it to make as much beer as possible, and we don't need to do that as homebrewers.
That could be the case, yeah.
Well, the other thing I liked about your talk earlier was you're splitting out. You came up with this concept of splitting out mash efficiency, conversion efficiency, not mash efficiency, but conversion efficiency from lauter efficiency.
Yes.
So there are two different things. One is, you can, and it wasn't one of your points was it isn't difficult to get 100% essentially conversion efficiency, and then once you've got that, then you can worry about then your lauter efficiency actually means something. If you've got lousy conversion efficiency, then your lauter efficiency could be masking a problem or accentuating a problem that is really just in your mash parameters, and it's a temperature, it's a thickness, it's a pH, it's a grist, your milling or what have you.
Yes.
What kind of techniques should people be looking at to get 100% conversion efficiency? What are the simple things that they should focus on to do that, and then gain more control over their lautering?
Right. There's also. First of all, you just give it enough time for the given mash temperature that you chose. Pay some attention to your water, at least know what your water's like and try to match it up with the color of the beer. I mean, there is a lot of leeway when it comes to what pH actually works well for conversion, but it can be off quite a bit, especially with very pale beers.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing is just grist. Depends. Not every homebrewer has control over their own milling, but if you do, just make sure that the grist is the malt is properly crushed. It is good access for the water and the given mash schedule. Particularly if you have a single infusion, you may have to run it a little finer than you would do, for example, with a decoction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that helps. And so once you are at this, and also what I wanted to say is, it goes back, the idea of conversion efficiency goes back to the idea, well, I just have more numbers to look at. I know, like, if I'm short in the efficiency and in the kettle, I can go back, okay, was it a problem at mash, or was it a problem during lautering? And even when the mash is complete, I can just check the gravity and say, oh yeah, I'm fine here, I don't have to worry about this now.
Mm-hmm.
I can go on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think changing the degree of crush can be a big source of variation in your conversion efficiency. So, rather than trying to dial that around, if you set the mill to a consistent setting and just leave it, at least you've locked down that variable, and you can focus on, okay, was my temperatures correct? Was my grist ratio a factor? It kind of moves you off that worrying about whether you got the right crush or not.
Right, the crush is largely dependent on how you sparge, and so choose a crush that is fine enough that you don't get a stuck sparge and just keep it there.
Yeah, people will change their mills for different grains and things like that. I never bothered with that. Like John's saying, I want to keep as many parameters consistent as possible. As long as those are locked in, then I could, the ones that I adjust for each batch that may be different per recipe, then I focus on those. And I find that it's much more relaxing to brew that way, because I don't worry about so many little things. And the other is it makes it easier for me to figure out where I went wrong if something doesn't turn out how I predicted.
And if you're in the process of trying to find the sweet spot, I don't think it's a bigger problem to actually change around the mill setting, as long as you take good notes of it.
Yeah, that's
right,
true.
and that you can go back and say, okay, what did I do there? So I have experimented quite a bit with finer and coarser grist. Just example, this goes up also back to the conversion efficiency. So if you have a very fine crush and you have this 100% conversion efficiency, chances are that you may be able to back off a little until you actually may affect your conversion efficiency, because up to that point, the finer crush, doesn't really help you to get more efficiency. It just may make lautering more risky or more painful.
That's true.
Well, and one of the things I really like about you and your geekiness is that you do a lot of experimentation, and you put this on your website. You've got a website, Braukaiser.com. It's BRAUKAISER.com, and you're not afraid to put you design an experiment. You put your parameters, your assumptions, all that in there. So, and then, you go through your process, and then your data, and then you draw your conclusions. And anybody else who wants to go and try this and say, well, Kai doesn't know what he's talking about, they can go ahead and try it themselves and say, well, I got different data, or I got the same data. Gee, he does know what he's talking about. So I love that kind of experimentation. I hate it when people, they wave the chicken foot over the kettle and say, well, it was the best beer I ever made. So clearly it was the chicken foot.
Of course, because it didn't fall into the kettle.
right. All the other times it fell in. I mean, it may have been the chicken foot, but you don't really know. You can't say positively it was or positively it wasn't. It becomes, just a speculation. And so much of the stuff people are doing is just speculation. So I really like that you've got all this stuff, and you've been doing these experiments, and you've got this website. You got a lot of good stuff there, and I like the layout too. You kind of it's done with a wiki.
Yeah, it's really nice, so I don't have to worry about maintaining a web page and the design aspect.
So I like it, and there's a lot of good information there on a lot of traditional German brewing techniques, and you seem really into those. And you speak German, you read German, so that's probably one of the reasons why.
I try to put my heritage to good use there. It's just natural for me.
Yeah, Justin's trying to put his heritage to good use, but all that did was make him live in Pacheco, so, well. All right, let's do this. Let's take a short break. When we come back, I want to hear more about your thoughts on traditional German brewing techniques, if you're good with that. And we'll after that, we'll take some questions from the audience, so you guys don't go anywhere. We'll be back after this.
I've been brewing 17 years. I was kind of shocked to see that number. Don't do the math on my age.
This month, More Beer wants you to meet Chris Graham.
I started when I was in college, and I just fell in love with it.
Partner, Chief Operating Officer, and Certified Beer Geek.
I have just a ton of passion for homebrewing. I think it's such a creative outlet, both ingredients and art and process and technical equipment.
Chris is here to tell us about life at More Beer.
What I love about working at More Beer is the people. Their passion for products, innovating new products, looking at pro brewers, how they do it, or just seeing an opportunity and saying, hey, we should make that. And then carrying over to teaching people, and that's another part of our passion, so that they can make the best beer possible.
Now, how about this month's specials?
5 of my favorite things to brew with right now are the digital refractometer. It makes taking samples so much faster than a regular hydrometer. The Scotch Ale, because it's just an amazing malty beer, especially if you let it age. The gas and beer quick disconnect sets. It makes setting up a kegerator so much faster. And my 1000 brewing sculpture. It's fast, clean, and easy to brew on. And then there's the Grand Box. This is a box they named after me, and it makes me feel uncomfortable. Gotta have it.
Get to know Chris this month at morebeer.com.
Hey, what are you doing, man?
Writing a review of WLP 400.
What? You're reviewing yeast?
Yeah. White Labs has home brewer reviews of all their strains. Are you new to these interwebs? Check it out.
That's awesome.
White Labs, your source for great yeast, invites all brewers to visit whitelabs.com to read and write your own reviews of all their yeast strains. Get real-world tips and tricks from other brewers who have made the most of their vials and post your own experiences. It's another way White Labs brings you closer to the best yeast on the planet.
And send. There you go.
You misspelled flocculate, dude.
What? Mother...
White Labs. It's all in the vial.
Hi, this is Push from the Brewing Network, and I want to tell you about the Brewmaster's Warehouse and how you can get 10% off your next order. I'm a pretty techie guy, but I've never seen an online store like this. It's awesome. Go to brewmasterswarehouse.com and click on Brew Builder. You can whip up a custom recipe so easily even Sven could do it. Seriously, it's slick. You can share your recipe with your own logo and notes to the Brewmasters database if you want, and the best part, it keeps a running tally of the beer you're building while you're doing it. Then, bam, click Buy Recipe, and your cart is filled and ready to go with helpful suggestions in case you forgot something. This thing is amazing. Brewmasters Warehouse is run the way a homebrewer would do it, with great service, fast turnaround, and $6.99 flat rate shipping. Brewmasters Warehouse and the Brew Builder blew me away. Check it out today at brewmasterswarehouse.com. I'm serious. And don't forget to put BNARMY in the discount code box for 10% off your order. Check out brewmasterswarehouse.com. Cheers.
Do you support the Brewing Network? Do you brew your own? Are you looking for an economical, fun, and legal way to do both? Subscribe to Brew Your Own magazine and do just that. All year long, Brew Your Own will surprise you, entertain you, and educate you with articles on beer and brewing from authors like the Brewing Network's very own Jamil Zadashev and John Palmer. Each issue is a full pint of brewing techniques, homebrew stories, tips and photos, projects to make yourself, and recipes for the avid home brewer. Get your tough questions answered by Mr. Wizard, and polish your style accuracy with Jamil. A portion of every subscription goes to the Brewing Network, so subscribe today at byo.com/Brewing Network, or just click the BYO logo on the Brewing Network homepage and support a fantastic hobby and your favorite broadcaster. Brew Your Own, the how-to homebrew beer magazine.
Hilo, what's it feel like?
Take awesome and multiply it by 2.
Yeah!
Spraying live beer radio all over your face.
Can't get any better than this, baby.
It's the Brewing Network.
Back to the two guys that know how to turn beer into beer. This is Brew Strong.
All right, don't forget, you guys out here, coming up, we're going to be taking questions live, Q&A. You'll just come up, Push will put you on the mic, and you can ask your questions, any sort of question you have for us. Fair game. We'll be doing that after this segment, so don't go anywhere. Start thinking of your questions that you want to ask, and, if you're really embarrassed, you can write them down and hand them to him, and the lovely Pushy Jack will read them for you.
In a funny voice.
In a funny voice, yeah. Oh, that might be far more entertaining, too. So go ahead and write your questions down, pass them on to Push, and he'll sound like a young girl telling Tasty to suck it or something. I don't know.
Wait, what?
All right. So we're speaking with Kai Troester. He's one of the beer geeks or brewing geeks that we enjoy the pleasure of on the in our world.
On the world of internet.
On the world of internet, yes. The interwebs, yes.
Yeah. Which forums did you generally post to most?
Now it's more the AJ forum.
Okay.
So everybody should go there.
Nice. AJ forum. Okay.
And the Northern Brewer, I know some homebrew talk.
Okay.
So there was a time when I was also on the BN. So sorry for being absent for a while.
Yeah, it's hard. You sign up these forums. You have great I got great intent to post stuff, but I haven't posted anything in so long. Unless it's like show related, I'm not doing a darn thing. So I'm far worse than you will ever be, I think.
So, and also, you have to also watch out that you don't really get suckered in too much and maybe spend a lot of your work time.
Yeah, that's true.
Doing that. So.
Well, this is my work time right here. So drinking beer and yakking on the radio is my work time now. All right, so during the break, you mentioned one thing to me that I think is also very important. You said you like the fast ferment test as well, or forced ferment was what I call them, where you take a sample of the wort and then you pitch a bunch of yeast. Yep.
I mean, a lot of yeast compared to that being a sample, so you basically badly over pitch it. Mm-hmm. And the sample doesn't have to be large. It's large enough so that you later can take a hydrometer reading. Mm-hmm. And the idea is to just make it as good and nice for the yeast as possible, so that they ferment as many sugars as they can. So that means warm, agitated occasionally, maybe even put it on a stir plate. Probably with an airlock on. I'm not sure if there's too much air and that they start eating the alcohol too, or not producing as much alcohol. So you do want to have a realistic fermentation, but not realistic in terms of that you actually can judge the beer quality later. This will taste really nasty later.
Right.
Yeah. But what you're just looking for is what is the attenuation limit of the wort that I just produced in mashing. And that is how far the yeast can go.
Right.
And now your actual fermentation management and yeast choice and also beer style will determine how close the yeast will get. And some beers benefit from the yeast not going all the way. There will be residual sugars, which are important for the character and balance of the beer.
Right.
But some other beer styles, like a Pilsner, for example, you want to have it as close as possible to that attenuation limit to get that dryness.
Right.
Yeah. And actually, I found that this difference between attenuation and attenuation limit is more important to the character of the beer than the actual final gravity.
I agree.
So actually,
I agree 100%. Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
you talked about it. Yeah.
I have made beers where actually it goes back to the consistency. Where so I kind of got the mash wrong, and the fermentability or the attenuation limits of the wort were different. But I knew that if I kind of want to recreate that beer, that I have to make sure that the yeast, that the delta will be about the same. And that's especially in lager brewing kind of easy to control, because more often than not it'll actually take a while to get there. So once it is in the correct range, I would just crash cool it to cold conditioning and just kind of stop the fermentation.
Well, and one of the things that I've always ranted and raved about was the fact that you could have a beer that finishes 10 points lower and seems sweeter and fuller than a beer that finished 10 points higher. Tasty McDowell right over there, folks. He brought in 2 Belgian blondes, I believe it was. We had a good time. Then we tasted some beer. We tasted some Belgian blondes. And then we had he brought in 2 beers that he'd done, and they had attenuated different amounts, with like a 10-point difference. And one of them was sweeter and fuller. I said, well, this one finished higher and this one finished lower, and it was the exact opposite, 10-point difference. It was amazing the difference between the 2 beers. It has to do with the types of residual sugars that are left, and if they're all these long chain dextrins, they're not sweet. You really don't taste them, and there's a lot that goes into the character of the beer, and it's like I was saying, it's that little bit that doesn't get attenuated out. I mean, most of the yeast, they stop just shy of what the maximum could be, and or a little further back, but it tells you a lot about the beer. One of the things that this test is really valuable for is if you do this forced wort test. A lot of times people would say, well, I got this stuck fermentation. I keep adding tons more yeast into it, and it won't ferment. It's like, maybe it's already completely fermented out. If you do this forced wort test or this fast ferment test, it will tell you what your maximum is going to be. And if you're just a couple points shy of that, it's fully fermented. It's not really going to ferment anymore. So
and you can even start breaking some more rules when you know that attenuation limit. You may even start cold conditioning the beer before it's fully attenuated, and then later account for the residual sugar when you bottle condition the beer. You just use less priming sugar, for example. That is something, but still you have to make sure that by the time you chill it down, that the yeast has already cleaned up the beer, so that you don't leave diacetyl acetaldehyde. But yes, and it gives you a feedback from your mashing process too, so you can actually go back and kind of compare these notes if you try to design a new recipe and see, okay, how should I mash it?
Well, all right. So we mentioned before the break, you're German?
Yes.
All right. And so you've got an interest in traditional German brewing techniques. And you actually read a lot of these German texts that we don't have access to here, or we have access to them, we just can't read them. Because it looks like they're written in German or something. But you're able to read German. So, and actually, one of the great things that you told me the other day, you mentioned that there was some information on enzymes that actually put the sugars back together.
Yes.
And I thought that was fascinating. I never heard that. And you found that in one of these texts.
Yeah, I did find this in one of Nazi's books, who used to be head of the brewing school of Weinstefan.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of those little tidbits where we are always told that the enzymes in the mash only take sugars apart.
Right.
But apparently there are also enzymes in the mash, at least at a low concentration, that are able to take maltose, for example, and put it back at the end of a dextrin and create a larger sugar from that. And it kind of makes sense, because the barley needed that at some point to make starch, so
to
that
make
they're
the
still
starches,
there.
right.
But it does not really violate our idea of or our simple model of having the beta and the alpha amylase, because it's still that even in the existence of these enzymes, that unless there are extreme conditions, that you get a more fermentable wort if you mash at lower temperatures as opposed to higher temperatures. So it's not something to worry about as a homebrewer, just something, one of those little tidbits of
That's one of those neat things to geek out about. And, our listeners, they enjoy brewing all sorts of beer, and sometimes they'll take it easy and brew whatever, but they all want to know how to make perfect beer. They're really concerned about, they're not going to overly worry, I think, but they really like to hear this information, kind of figure it out, and say, wow, all right, if I do this, I shouldn't really worry. If I do that, I should.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the great things about figuring all these little things out and getting these bits of information. It makes it enjoyable.
And it makes you also a much more relaxed brewer if you know what parts are actually important for the consistency and for the quality of the final outcome. For example, many are probably like me and have family and trying to balance the brewing with family life. So sometimes I just cannot really stick to my brewing schedule as much, or I do have to take a break somewhere actually to just not wreck the relationship with the wife, right? So it's good to know that there are certain parts in the brewing process where I may be able to just extend the rest, or just maybe let the wort, if it's cold, just sit much longer unpitched than we are told to, just because I know that's not going to make a difference here.
Okay. And, of all the stuff you've learned from reading all these German texts about brewing, if you had to distill it down to one thing that people should take away from that, if there was one thing that you think is most important about brewing that you learned from all your research, what would that be? Put you on the spot here. Well, what would you pick as being the one thing that really makes probably the biggest difference in brewing beer?
This is undoubtedly the idea of sanitation. We all agree on proper sanitation and proper fermentation, and this is also true for German brewing. And also know that this doesn't seem to be that big secret to trying to brew the perfect German beer either. But for some reason, it is somewhat elusive. Even to me, with what I've seen and tasted in my own brewing, it's not easy to get that typical German flavor into the beer.
Well, and I think we all accept it as being a critical part of it. And the interesting thing is, people still don't achieve it. I don't know. I'm very focused on sanitation, and I think it's such a critical part. I even forget about it now. It's like I don't believe I should mention it to anybody, because they should all already be doing these things.
It depends on what kind of level of brewer we are talking to. Obviously, a beginning brewer, they have to be taught be really careful. But once you're intermediate and advanced, just take it as a given, and then you're more focusing on getting the yeast right.
Although it's possible to take it too far, and we were talking about this the other day too. You were saying, I don't want people to. I'll talk about something geeky, but I don't want people to think that they have to do this in order to make good beer.
But now
they shouldn't let it hurt them.
They say, actually, when I thought about sanitation, I thought that this is the only thing in brewing that you cannot do too much of.
Oh, hold on.
You may do too much. I mean, you may waste your time, but you're not ruining the beer. It's like all the other things you can do too much of and ruin your beer.
Well, I got this friend. He's out near Chicago. He came out. He won Brew Day, and he came out and brewed with me. And what he wanted to watch was how I sanitized everything. And he was doing these, very elaborate steps to make sure everything was, just as sanitary as possible. Closed, everything was closed. Transfer, everything was, gloved and face masked, and it was killing him. He was not having any fun brewing, and it was preventing him from brewing. And I told him, I said, you need to back down. I said, you need to be a little more sloppy in your process. I said, it's too much. He was the only person that I've ever met that I thought was going overboard. Much worse than me. I'm thinking, this guy could go ahead and sanitize for me. I can't imagine anything lives after this guy does it. So, but the problem was, it was, brewing wasn't any fun for him. And, coming out and seeing me do it, he actually relaxed after seeing me, which is unusual. And he was saying, oh, wow, I feel like I can brew again because it's not going to be that big a challenge. Really, I can stop doing all these other things. He saw how I was doing it. The beer was turning out just fine.
Close enough is good enough. Yeah.
Right. And so, I would think, don't let it stop you. Don't let it don't worry about it. Kai's absolutely right. That's probably the fundamental, most important thing about brewing. And then the second is probably fermentation, and then, everything else after that. But, don't worry so much that it stops you from brewing. You should be, brewing beer and enjoying it. And especially even if your fermentation or your sanitation is sloppy, if your fermentation's good and you drink the beer quick, it'll be great. You'll never notice the difference, and you can have a great time with that. All right, so we're going to be doing some Q&A questions here when we come back from this break. Either queue up here with the lovely Pushy Jack, or write down your questions and pass them to him if you want him to read them for you. But any questions you got, step right up, give us some questions. We'll be back after this.
Williams Brewing is your online resource for prompt delivery of quality home brewing supplies. Since 1979, Williams Brewing has offered the finest equipment and freshest ingredients and the best customer service in the business. Cut hours off your brewing sessions by using one of our 11 varieties of famous Williams malt extract. Our Williams Belgian Pale Extract is mashed with pure Belgian two-row malt and a small percentage of Belgian wheat malt for an authentic Belgian character you just can't get from other extracts. Or check out our unique fermenters, 2.5-gallon kegs, paintball tank-based draft beer equipment, bottling aids, and much more. We even have our own line of precision hydrometers. Go to WilliamsBrewing.com to browse our vast selection. That's WilliamsBrewing.com. Orders placed by 3:30 p.m. Pacific Time ship the same day. Brewing is easy. The Williams way.
When you hear Blickman Engineering, think innovation, passion, quality, and customer service. Blickman gear is designed by brewers to give you a sense of pride in your equipment. At Blickman, they know what makes brewing a pain and build gear that makes it fun. Like the intuitive beer gun, a completely different approach to filling bottles. The Therminator Wort Chiller, a new take on a plate chiller that's sized for flow, performance, and the high groundwater temps homebrewers face every day. The Brewmometer, a brilliant weldless thermometer design with brewing parameters right on the dial. The Autosparge, ultimate simplicity for preventing an overflow or running your mash tun dry. And much more, like the modular top-tier brewing stand, conical fermenters, and their Boilermaker brew pots. With more cutting-edge equipment coming soon. Keep up with the latest from Blickman at BlickmanEngineering.com and stay on the cutting edge.
And now, Northern Brewer brings you another installment of The Time Brewers. 3 brewers brewers, 3 different eras, all caught in the same fermento-chronological vortex, traveling through time, righting brewing wrongs, and bringing beery wisdom to where and whenever it may be needed. Journey now with Dr. Jean de Klerk.
Greetings, listeners.
20th century Belgian super brewing scientist.
Please, the yeast and the enzymes do the hard work. I am merely a facilitator.
Icebach.
What?
21st century Norwegian American homebrewer rapper from St. Paul.
Listen. I bust attenuation maxims and my Yakima magnums make my lager so smooth it's like a laxative. My spit got that static power after I mash for an hour. I got naked ladies in my brew room all covered in hot flowers. I swing a propagation flask like a 5-liter dick. Get your nasty mid-drinking group on ass back to 1026, boo!
And Brother Abelard.
Art thou a witch? Begone!
12th century English monk and perpetuator of brewing superstition.
My holy rod of divine babbling shall maketh any ale to froth by the grace of heaven, and a modicum of bog myrtle hurts not either.
Brought to you by Northern Brewer, your one-stop homebrew supplier throughout the entire fermento chronosphere. The widest selection of quality malt, hops, yeast, and equipment with $7.99 flat rate shipping. Tune in next time for more Time Brewers!
Stop. Birdison, what is it? Shh. Listen. I think I hear a dwarfen ale. A what? A dwarfen ale. But there's no such thing. Aye, lad, but soon there will be.
Hail, brewers! Fantasy Brewmasters invites you to participate in their 2010 Dwarf Brew Recipe Contest. Do you dig fantasy? Have you ever wondered what sort of ale a wizard might come across at his local tavern? Have you ever wanted to find out what a dwarfen ale really tastes like? Yeah, you know who you are, and here's your chance to show your geek pride. Submit what you think would be the ultimate dwarfen beer, and your recipe could be chosen for commercial production as their flagship beer.
Entrants must be a U.S. resident, 21 years of age or older. Log on to www.fantasybrewmasters.com to register and for contest rules and more details.
For this contest, they're looking to brew an authentic dwarfen beer of your creation along the lines of a very drinkable brown ale.
Registration deadline is Tuesday, August 31st.
The winner takes home $1,000, plus they get to see their beer brewed commercially. Go to fantasybrewmasters.com now.
It's not some old fantasy character beer. It's f***ing dwarfen ale.
fantasybrewmasters.com.
Back to your hosts, Jamil Zainasheff and John Palmer. Putting the testicles in technical. This is Brew Strong.
All right, we're back. We're live, NHC 2010 Minneapolis! We're here with our guest, Kai Troester. He's author of Braukaiser.com, BRAUKAISE.com.
Yeah, because I didn't get Kaiser.com.
Right, yeah, that one was probably taken back in World War II, or no, World War I, actually, no. Yeah, back before the internet.
I think it's a biscuit company, actually.
Is it?
Oh yeah, there's Kaiser Peppermint. There's a lot.
No. Well, and if you're browsing those interwebs, you might want to swing by BlickmanEngineering.com as well. Blickman with 2 N's. Our fine sponsor. He takes good care of us. So
we don't have to.
So we don't have to. So you don't have to.
Yeah.
You don't have to take good care of us.
Right.
Blickman's doing the job for you. And he's paying for this show, so you don't have to. So make sure you can stop by over their booth today and shake his hands and say, thanks so much, for hosting the show and keeping it. We enjoy it, and maybe you want to check out that gear and buy yourself a few goodies while you're here. Maybe you left your spouse at home, and he or she is not going to notice when you walk up back home with a Boilermaker or
you just kind of
beer
slip
gun
in
or
the
whatever.
garage and when
the beer gun is small enough. You tuck it in your sock, put your pant leg down over it, and then you can kind of limp into the house and say, "Oh no, nothing wrong with my leg.
I'm just happy to see you."
Oh yeah, it's perfectly fine, perfectly fine, really. All right, so we're going to take some questions live from the audience. First up.
Hi, I'm Denny Kahn from Notai, Oregon. Hey, it's really cool to have you three guys together. I'm really enjoying this conversation a lot. Kai, there's something I've always wanted to ask you about. You're like so steeped in German brewing tradition, yet at the same time you're a real heretic, which is, what I love about you. Your cold sparging experiments, and the thing that impresses me most of all is that you're a batch sparger. How did you decide on batch sparging when you go so traditional on so many things?
Because I didn't want to spend as much money to actually get a system that is good enough for fly sparging. So and I found it to be very consistent, and I just felt that all the money I actually kind of have to spend right now in brewing that goes into the cold side of brewing. That's where I have been investing much more than just into the a 26 quart turkey fryer pot. That's what I use. So my boils start about an inch below the rim, and have to manage those boil offers. But hey, it works.
Well, see, and I think you're saying invest in the cold side first. I would agree. I think the good people at White Labs and Y Yeast, they agree too. That's where beer is made. It makes such a huge difference in the quality of the beer.
Well,
it's being able to.
That's where beer's made.
Right.
Beer's
You're making
made.
wort
Is made in the brew house, and beer's made in the cellar.
And you can take almost any wort and make a really good beer if you ferment it well.
There's actually I found a nice something about that in an old German brewing book that I read a while back, where actually one of the guidelines said that what you mess up in the brew house, you may be able to correct in fermentation, but you cannot correct anything in fermentation. You cannot correct the bad fermentation, right? And so that holds still true.
Well, and we did an interview. Well, you did the interview with Charles Bamforth. They do it over the phone, and then we played it on one of our shows where you were talking about hot side aeration. You worry about hot side aeration. All that. He goes, well, essentially, I think his statement was, it exists, but it doesn't matter because if you have good fermentation, it cleans up all the compounds that you would worry about from hot side aeration.
That's
so
right.
As long as fermentation is so important. So you see. That's a great place to invest if you're looking at temperature control for fermentation and things like that, ability to add some oxygen to your beer. All right, so our next question. If you got any questions, go ahead. Come on up to the mic. We won't leave until we get all the questions answered. So don't be afraid.
I'm David Mers. I'm from South Carolina.
David
and Kai, I would like for you to elaborate on a little tidbit on your page on Maltese rest. I've done it once, and just that little tidbit.
Are you talking Maltese?
The rest, where you back down the temperature after.
So what he's talking about is this the recent Zymergy article about that?
It's on your page too. It's on.
Yes, I know.
Buried in all that data on mash chemistry.
Right. So what he's talking about is that there's an enzyme present in the malt that actually can split mainly maltose into glucose, and that is the maltase. I'm not sure what's it called in English.
Glucosidase.
Yeah, something like that. But the problem is with this enzyme, it is active at lower temperature. So it's active at about 45 degrees Celsius and denatures after that. So in normal mashing, we don't see much of its activity. Now, there is a way to use that enzyme, and what you would do, you would actually create a lot of maltose in a mash, and then lower the temperature by adding cold water, and then you add more malt to the mash, so it can actually add fresh amount of enzyme of that particular enzyme.
Yeah, increase the proportion of that.
Right, and then you create glucose in that mash, and it has been found that if you do that, if you increase the glucose amount in wort, that you get more ester production. There has been some research done a few years back by Markus Herrmann at the Weinstefan, brewing school, and he proposed that as a means of creating very ester-rich wheat beers in generally ester-suppressing fermentation environments like tall conicals.
Oh, okay.
And there was a recent Zymergy article about that as well. And so that's what he's talking about. It's kind of complicated mash, and I don't think it's really something that homebrewers should look to as making the perfect wheat beer or Weiss beer. It's
just
more
pour in some glucose syrup if you want more glucose.
See, that's the thing. It's like this is where we get into traditional German brewing traditions. There's no adding sugar in German, so that's why they have these to do these creative things. And but this is more one of those geeky fermentation schedules that you may want to try out and see what you get.
Yeah, just for grins.
I tried it recently, and it didn't work as much as I thought it would work. So I'll have to see. Maybe I did something wrong there, but is.
Now let's see the effect of glucose on ester production. That's one of the things in the yeast book coming out. Chris White and myself we're working on, and that's coming out the mid-September 2010. You should see that yeast book, so pick yourself up a copy. All right, we got another question coming up.
Hi, guys. I'm Jason Gabriel from Davenport, Iowa, and don't exactly have a question about mash efficiency, but it is a serious question all the same.
Any question. No problem.
Right, I warned you. I see a lot of equipment here for you guys set up. When you guys are back in the studio, I mean, there's laptops I can see everywhere. Do you find that the various and massive amounts of porn that Justin keeps on the laptops encourages you, or does it slow things down?
Well, he keeps those laptops facing himself normally in the studio. That's one of the reasons I'm a little bit distracted here. And the funny thing was, I think, was it you? Yeah, I think it was you. It was you. We met the other day, and I said, we've met before, haven't we? And you said, no. And I said, you look really familiar. And you said, well, it must be from the gay porn. And I'm like, exactly, that's where I know you from. I've seen you on Justin's laptop. All right, so, no, normally not a problem. The only thing that slows us down in the studio is... Schumann is, clogging up the, he's rubbing one out, and then it's takes all the internet bandwidth and makes the live broadcast difficult. Next question.
Well, my name's Jamie Snelson. I'm from Austin, Texas. I got a question about water to grist ratio. And you talked earlier today about how you could go up to 3 quarts per pound. I'm curious how that affects flavor, and how would it be changed for different styles?
That's a good question. I have not done much experimentation about how it changes flavors. I know that it works because, for example, the brew in a bag guys.
Yeah, they use
very thin mashes as well. Traditionally, I've read that English beers, for example, are mashed thick.
Yeah.
So in German beers are kind of mashed thin. So maybe you want to choose kind of where you want to go with the mash thickness based on these guidelines first. And if you're interested in if it makes what kind of flavor difference it makes, just brew up a side-by-side batch.
Right.
Brew the same beer twice with different.
And
I would think temperature would be a more. A bigger driver for flavor difference as a function of fermentability and so on than mash thickness.
But it is so forgiving that you can be anywhere in that range, anywhere sort of close to that range, and as long as you're fermenting the beer well, it's going to turn out really good. And it's one of the smaller things that you need to worry about. So if you perfected everything else and you got awesome sanitation and fermentation and packaging and all that, then all of a sudden this parameter is important. And this is one of the things that Kai was talking about earlier today was, understanding your number and why that number is there and controlling that number. It's important, but it's not the end of the world. But you got to figure out all these things and have consistency in all these other things as well. So don't get sidetracked off of one thing or another and let it distract you from making great beer.
And I also have not found a lot of data supporting that there's a big change in fermentability depending on the
it's tiny
on the mash shake thickness. Actually, I can produce sources that say that it's going to be thinner if you mash thinner. I have sources that say the other way around, and sources that say, well, it's a wash.
Right.
So even in the scientific brewing community, they can't really agree what's happening, and just because there are so many factors working against each other, and just depends on that particular experiment. What was the overwhelming factor there in affecting attenuation?
Okay. All right, next question.
All right, hey guys, my name's Kevin Dill. I'm from Davenport, Iowa, also, and my question doesn't revolve around gay porn, but actually, I have a question. I talked to John yesterday. I had my first batch of beer that came out smelling of the sulfur and everything, and it freaked me out like crazy. So I went and read up in the books and everything. Was talking about what to do, and then I met with a brewer from one of the breweries in Davenport, and he said when you're transferring to secondary, take a penny and put it into the tube when you're transferring it over, and that's supposed to help to take care of that problem. But he didn't really explain to me why, so I was hoping maybe you guys could enlighten me a little bit as to why that would help out.
Well, and they do this with wine as well, but the problem is a modern penny is actually made of zinc, so you really that's not appropriate.
The copper, what it does is it complexes with the sulfites that are in the wort that give rise to the H2S that comes out of the beer during fermentation. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to convert the sulfur to a less volatile form, so that it doesn't so you don't taste it and so on.
But I got a much better way to handle this problem. All right, so and you're putting practical brewing experience right here. I've dealt with this sort of thing. All right, so you're putting this in a keg. All right, so the advantage that beer has over a lot of these wines is that you've got carbonation. Carbonation you can use to drive out all sorts of volatile compounds out of the beer. So you go ahead, put it in the keg, carbonate it up, and you can just bleed off some CO2 every couple of hours during the day. Just give it a tss, let it carbonate back up. Tss, huh? What if you're putting bottles instead? Oh, if you're doing bottles instead, you're screwed. But if you're kegging, you can just blow off a lot of those volatile compounds, and it should clear up. It may take days or a week. John Plissé was able to fix a beer doing this same technique.
Well, actually, my experience has been that it just takes time to age out for the sulfur. It's very common for young lagers, for example, to have sulfury.
It depends. I mean, some of those sulfur compounds, but a lot of the sulfur, it'll stick around forever, and it just never goes away. And I guess it depends on what the sulfur complex is, and what maybe in the individual beer. But you can actually blow off a lot of that pretty fast. So you end up with some of those compounds. Same thing. You have diacetyl or acetaldehyde. You can either count on the yeast that's in it. Put a little more yeast in it, warm it up, and it'll clean up. So beers like that, they're not necessarily lost. They're fixable.
Yeah.
All right. Next question.
Hi, I have a question for Jamil. My name is John Sims. I'm from Springfield, Virginia. A question about yeast. I'm a beginning mead maker, and I'm using Narbonne from Lalvin, the 71B. I rehydrate it with GoFirm. What do I have to do in order to get a pitchable thing according to your calculator? Is that valid for the Narbonne yeast?
It should be. The thing about the pitching rate calculator is it gives you at least a starting point, right? And and always when you use dry yeast, you want to rehydrate. You're doing the perfect thing with the GoFirm and all that, and that's gonna give you the best of that dry yeast. If you don't rehydrate like that, you're throwing like half dead yeast into your mead or your beer. So it's important to rehydrate. The pitching rate calculator, now what that's set up to do is to give you a consistent pitching rate across whatever beers you're doing or meads you're doing. And if you find that rate works for you, great. It should get you really close. You may find that you want to go a little higher or a little lower, especially in a mead or, if you're making, a cider or something like that. at least you can be consistent, and then you can keep your pitching rate the same. So it is valid and a helpful tool for that sort of thing. All right, if you got questions, come on up to Mr. Pushy Ejecti, and he will brew strong your questions for you.
I'm sure there's more questions to come, but we have a couple of written-in ones. Dirk Baker from Hillsboro, Oregon asks, are there any discernible differences between mash hopping and first wort hopping on overall bitterness, aroma, etc.?
I would think that there would be a difference on overall bitterness because you don't carry over the alpha acids, and you would only carry over
mash hopping.
Yeah, you would only carry over. Actually, you would only carry over the few alpha acids that you got dissolved, and maybe the few alpha acids
made its way
isomerized. So it made the aroma itself and flavor might be similar to first wort hopping because it's kind of the same temperatures, the same reactions kind of going. I would assume.
Right.
I haven't done mash hopping. I personally think it's kind of a waste of hops.
Right.
Yeah, that's generally the opinion of a lot of craft brewers and professional brewers.
All right. Another question.
Hi, I'm Olo from Phoenix. How you guys doing?
Good.
I have a question for all three of you. You're well published, well known on the internet.
Sorry.
How do you guys cope with all the internet drama where people quote what you say and change what you say and modify their arguments and say, well, Jamil said, or Palmer says. I'd like to hear what you guys think about that.
Honestly, these days I'm too busy to keep up with the forums, and so a lot of this I'm oblivious to, so ignorance is bliss. I have had a couple threads, emailed to me where people said, "Hey, somebody's talking about water chemistry here," and
you said this.
Yeah,
is that true? And it's like, well, no, it's nothing like anything I said.
Yeah.
So, well, I think that one thing with the internet is that there's this big level of anonymity.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's something that. You have to just brush it off, and obviously we had arguments. There's
right. Well, yeah, and actually I think it was not even an argument. It was misunderstanding, or it's just it's communicating through emails and things like that, and and just I don't know my sloppy just mashing things together. My thing about it is, I only find it annoying when somebody's like, well, on this show, he says this word for word. And I'm thinking, well, there's no way I said that. And I'll go back and I'll listen to it, and sure enough, I didn't say those words, but they got it in quotes or mentioning the time. And I'm thinking, well, it makes it seem so official. Like, it's like, well, word for word, this is what he said. And I'm like, no. So if you want to make something up and attribute it to me, that's the easiest way to get everybody to believe it is say, well, it's on the show at this time. Nobody will bother checking, so you got free reign to say, oh, well, yeah, that's what he said. So I don't know. The people care to repeat something you said. That's awesome. How often does that happen? So it all comes with the territory.
I've got a question here from Terry Racine. What are you drinking, and how is it? I don't know if this is self-serving or not.
Right now we're drinking the
Bell City Brewers American Stout, Tony Commodore. I thought it was going to be
Terry
Racine, yeah. And then we also had a Bock or a Doppelbock that Shat brought us. I'm not sure whose that was. That was good, too. We finished the... Bedrock brought it for us. Yeah, we finished that, and that was good, too.
All right, unless anybody else has questions, do you have one? Come on up now.
Don't be shy.
Yep, don't be shy. These guys are...
I've seen you all naked. Don't worry.
Nice. Say your name and where you're from. Come right on up here.
Okay. Hey, my name's Matt. I'm from Westerville, Ohio. I just wondered, we know for me the challenge is just finding enough time to brew with family, and I know you guys have family. Can you talk about maybe how you fit that into your schedule and still, we talk about consistency in processes and how you can start to develop some consistency even when maybe your brewing schedule isn't quite so consistent?
Good question.
Yeah, that's tough.
So, well, maybe I should start.
Sure.
So one key to it is that you can kind of cut your brew day down to like 5 to 6 hours. So I mean, this is definitely possible. I can even throw a decoction into that.
Yeah.
But so that really helps. What that would allow you to do actually to brew at night.
Yeah.
That's so like it's sometimes I dough in, and then while the mash is resting, I have dinner, and then going on. Then during the loud, I would put the kids to bed and things like that, and can pitch and be in bed by maybe 1 o'clock the next morning. That helps. Or just one like the things you can kind of stop is if you do a mash out and during the lauter, you can let that wort sit for a while before you then go to a boil, for example, or once you chilled the wort, you can still let it sit unpitched for actually a considerable amount of time, given if you that you had good sanitation practices. For example, keep the lid closed when you're chilling the wort. So you don't have contaminants in there, so that helps.
Especially if it's a lager wort and you got it in the fridge and it's sitting cold overnight, actually, versus sitting warm at ale temperatures. You get something down in the 40s or 50s. Bacterial action is going to be really slow at that temperature, so that's a good one. I myself. For brewing consistency, one of the things I like to do, and I've talked about this before, is if you can brew a whole bunch of batches, one after the other every day, and you can spend a week brewing all these different batches, you really learn a lot about, improving the efficiency of your brewing and consistency and things like that. It becomes, second nature. When you have to, brew a batch, wait 2 months, brew a batch, wait 2 months, it becomes a lot tougher. You spend an hour just trying to say, well, where is that piece of equipment? And, trying to gather all that stuff together. So, try and have all your gear in one location, have things organized. When you're done, spend the extra, 15 minutes or whatever to have everything prepped for the next time and laid out in order so you're ready to go. And you'll save quite a bit of time the next time when you come to do it. And I think that's probably a good tip as well. Palmer, you got any, or you just don't care about your family's wants and needs when you're brewing, or what?
Well, the one thing I've noticed is that if I'm planning on saying, okay, I got to squeeze in a brew session, this weekend, keep it simple. I've got lots of equipment I can choose from, I guess, when it comes to brewing.
Let you go, Blickman.
Yeah, well, yeah. But also, if I've got a minimum amount of time, well, I'm not going to do, recirculation,
or
with extra hoses.
Decoction.
Yeah, I'm gonna whip out my Got cooler and mash in that, batch sparge, single infusion, and I'll minimize the time that I have to spend with any one process.
Well, yeah, and I'll tell you this as well. I think that's an excellent point. That reminds me of one other thing. We are blessed with excellent extract in this country.
Yep.
And I would not hesitate to make some extract beer. You can take extract, you can steep some specialty grains, and make an excellent beer, an award-winning beer, a fantastic beer. Just focus on fermentation and sanitation, and I think you can make just such a great beer. I'm curious about no boil beers, to where less than an hour you can have your wort ready, and you pitch your yeast, and the hour from start to finish. I think if we could make some great beers that way, then that would really help. And you can knock a few of those out, and you can still work on perfecting your fermentation side of things. And then when you do have more time, you can do all grain. But nothing wrong with doing the extract beer side. All right. Bring those questions up to Pushy.
Yep. We have a bunch of new people who just joined us.
Yeah, we're
taking
doing live
questions.
Q&A.
John, Jamil, and Kai, here's your chance.
You're live on
I guess
Internet Radio.
got a serious one here from Eric from Omaha. He wants to know, boxers, briefs, or commando?
Commando.
I like the tighty whities. Yeah.
Like the boxes.
Which time of day is he talking about? That's really a key consideration.
I think he means right now. He really wants to know right now.
Commando, right now, yeah. Oh, you think I'm kidding?
Lift up the
table.
yeah. You get that webcam under there. Kai?
Boxer.
Boxers? Well, see,
no, I'm not going to show.
You know, it's not like the Speedo or, Peter now. Where's Peter? Is Peter here? Peter Simons? You here? All right. Well, then I can talk about him. I'm like in the back of the RV, and he's it's a momentary glimpse down the RV. He's standing there in some Euro banana hammock type of thing. Bright yellow, and I'm like, holy smokes!
Like Bozo the Clown.
Like Bozo the Clown, yeah. Like Bozo dropped his banana or something. I don't know. It was quite a sight to see. All right, so that's our show for today. Don't forget, I want you to go down to the Blickman booth there. Say hi to those fine folks. They've paid for this show, so you don't have to. They support the Brewing Network, and if you enjoy the programming that we do, make sure you support our sponsors. Again, thank you very much, Kai, Troester, for helping us out here. I think it was a great show. I really enjoyed all your great information. Yeah. And we could probably do it from phone. Since you're in Massachusetts, we're in California.
That's a little difficult to have me fly out there.
But with all the love, we can do it over the phone, I think. All right, if you get a chance, stop by the Brewing Network store, thebrewingnetwork.com/store, and you can buy yourself some books, buy yourself some great T-shirts like these that say Brew Strong. You can get yourself hats, caps, nice polos if you're a little more professional with a little subtle hop grenade. Lots of good stuff on there, and you can even sign up for BYO Magazine, Zymergy, things like that. And all that goes to help the bottom line of the Brewing Network. And when you support us, we keep yakking into the microphones, and eventually either you'll get tired of it or we'll become rich and famous. Yeah, tired of it is what I'm gambling on. All right. Well, thank you very much, you guys. I think a good show. Thank you, everybody here at Minneapolis.
Thank you. Thanks, Minneapolis.
What an awesome conference. What an awesome group of people. We'll see you all in San Diego next year. San Diego, huh? All right. So until then, Brew Strong.
Brew Strong, everybody.